One of the major keys to any graph, I think, is really the data and the right data that you select. Just because you tell it that you want to graph all your data doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to become a good graph for you. So one of the things you need to do is try to figure out what data you want to graph and have represented by your graph, and ignore the other. And there's a number of different ways you can go about selecting data in order to graph it. The first way would be to just take your mouse and start at the very top, like here, select all the way across like that, and select down like that. Now you'd want to do something like that if you wanted to select, all the data to graph it. You wouldn't necessarily want to do something like this, where you're selecting not only the regular data that makes up your totals, but the totals themselves, because you end up with huge graphics, that are representing these numbers, and then you've got smaller graphics representing these because they're smaller numbers, and it just doesn't look right. In most cases, including the totals along with your regular data, not a good way. Now, another aspect would be that if you want to kind of limit it to certain areas, what you could do is something like this. You could select it, kind of drag across. Let's say you just want to go to June, and then down to here. That'd be great. So you'd end up graphing your 5 reps over the 6-month period. All right, so I think that stuff's pretty commonsensical. But now, what if you wanted to graph, let's just say, the totals, just these totals here for your 5 different reps? Well, that means that you'd want to include, obviously, this area here, and you'd want to include this area here. But you wouldn't want anything in between. So if you were just to go and kind of select it like this and select it down, you're going to end up getting all the data in between. And the other thing, too, to keep in mind is that when you go to graph it, because you didn't include these labels here, you're going to get missing labels, and you're going to get these default labels that don't make any sense, for your graph. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, what you want to think about, if you want to think of maybe in a backwards way, say to yourself, okay, what do I want to graph as far as the numbers go? And in this case, you want to graph these guys here. And then what you would do at that point, then you say, okay, now what do I need to have in there? I need to have the labels, right? I need to have the labels for what that column represents. So then now you think to yourself, okay, then maybe I need to go and do it from here. And that would be the proper way, because that way you're including that label there. Now, on the other hand here, you want to include these labels here, and you want to have these labels that account for what this is here. Now, if you take your control key and hold it down and select from Chip down to Beavis, you might think that you did just right. And you didn't, because what happens in this case is that because you didn't select this, it's going to line Chip up with the total. It's going to line Susan with the 66,000. That's not what you want to do. You want to keep it even. So the rule of thumb really is that when you go to select, let's say, your data like this, whatever that height is, you need to duplicate that height as far as your labels on the other side there, which would force you to come to the conclusion that you need to include A2 as well. So you'd select this area here, you hold down your control key, and you'd select this area and drag it down like that, see? And let go of your control key, and then you go and do your graph. Now, likewise would be if you wanted to graph, let's say, your totals down here, well then, not only would you want to include the numbers all the way out to December, let's say, but you'd also want to include the label for that. So you go and you select something like this, and then, of course, the corresponding labels would be up here, and because you want to keep it even, you're going to have to include A2. So then you'd hold down your control key, you'd select from A2 over to December like that, and let go. Now, let me just tell you some other ideas here as well. If you did something like this. Let's say you selected it like that, and you let go of your mouse prematurely, and then went back in there and said to yourself, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to select this, all right? And then I'll keep my control key held down, and then I'll select this here. I will say that in most cases, that'll be okay. But sometimes the machine will get confused. So be on the alert that maybe what you'll end up as far as a graph goes is not going to be what you expected. And it'll probably be wrong, all right? So if you do run into that situation where you drag and you do something like that and you let go prematurely, just start over again, all right? So just go back to here, go all the way across like that, hold down your control key, and do something like this, all right? Now another thought as far as selecting as well goes, let's say that you wanted to graph the first month of each quarter for each of your reps. That means you want to graph, let's say, January, April, July, and then October, right? So you could do it either way you want, because now you're a little bit more used to it. You might say, okay, well, I know for sure I'm going to need to select my reps, and I'm probably going to have to include A2, because obviously you're going to be doing that up here for the rest of them. So we'll start from here, go all the way down like that. And then, well, I guess we could also select the January too, but we'll just do it separate. So now you'll do a control key and you'll select January, just like that. Then you'll select, in this case, April, and then July, and then October, just like that. All right? And that would be the way to do that. Now let's look at having created a graph doing that kind of thing and trying to figure out how you might change the range that's already been graphed now. Okay, so we'll give you an example here. We'll do a general one first of all. So we'll select this range here, and we'll go all the way down, let's say, to here. Okay, so that would be just a typical selection of pretty much all your data. Now we would do that. We go back into Insert, go back over into our chart area here. We're just going to do just a basic, this first one right here, which is just what they call a clustered column. We'll click onto that. There it is. And as you probably learned in the last video, if you watched it, we would then take this and kind of move it down over to here, and then take that graphic handle, make it a little bit wider, kind of do something like that. All right, so there's your graph. Now, I click away from it. So there it is, perfect. Now, you decide, as you're looking at this, that you want to kind of limit this. Maybe you want to limit it as far as who you're charting or the time period that you're charting, but you decide that you want to kind of decrease it a little bit. All right. Now, you're saying this to yourself maybe after you've done a bunch of formatting to this. Let's say you've spent 5 or 10 minutes on this, and then you realize, I didn't mean to graph as much data. Now, if you didn't know any better, you'd probably go in there, delete the graph, start over again, reselect the data that you do want to have, graphed, and then go back and redo all that formatting. Well, here's how you can get around that. What you'll do is you'll click anywhere on the graph, what we call the chart area. So when you're on the chart area, you'll get that selection going all the way around the whole graph there, okay? Now, when you do that, you're going to see this part come alive, and you're going to see some different highlighted selected areas. So of this, what it's pretty much showing you, this is here. This here is going to be your legend. As you can see that, there's your legend, right? This here is going to be your x-axis, that's what you see down there, and then this middle area is your data. So you decide, okay, I think what I want to do is only graph the first 6 months. That's all I want in this particular graph. How do you fix that? Well, what you can do is if you can see that little marker kind of like in the bottom corner right there. And if you get right on top of it, you'll get like a diagonal double-tipped arrow. Now when you hold down your mouse and you drag it to the left, you'll be reducing that size. Now, it also automatically undoes it for the months along the top there, which is good. Now we'll go across like this. We'll stop off at June, let go, and there it changes your graph as well. All your people are still there because we didn't change that, we just changed this part here. Now, if you decide that not only do you want to just have the first 6 months, but you also want to have just from Chip to Igor, you want to leave out Beavis and Lurch, and, or I'm sorry, you want to leave out Lurch and Beavis, right? So how do you do that? Well, you go to that same marker, get that double-tipped diagonal arrow, hold down your mouse, and now drag it up, see? And as you drag it up, then it does that, see? So if we just bring it down to there, let go, and now there's your 3 reps, and there's your 6 months worth of data. Now, if you decide that you'd rather see, let's say the latter, or let's do this. Let's say that's your first graph, right? Now, what you want to do is you want to create another graph right below it that has the latter half with the same people. So from July to December, how would you do that? Well, what we'll do first of all is we'll click onto the chart, make sure we got that selected, which we do. And then on your keyboard, we're going to make a duplicate of this by hitting Control and the letter D. We do that, it gives us that duplicate. Then we can take, get anywhere on that chart area, hold down the mouse, drag it down, just like that. Let go, all right? And now we can click on to that second one. Now when I click the second one, it becomes active up here. If for some reason you do that and you go up to the top and you don't see it being activated, just click off of it like that and then click back onto it, and it usually will then become activated. And now what we'll do is so that's what we got activated. So now there it is. So now what we can do is we can just grab hold of one of the sides here. See, we get the little crosshair there. When you get that crosshair, hold down your mouse and you drag it to the right, and you'll see it kind of disconnect from the Chip, Susan, and Igor. We just kind of go across like that, let go, and now there's your latter part of the year with the same people. So that's pretty cool. Pretty neat little deal there. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete both of these. And just click on them and hit the delete key. That's all I'm doing there. Now I want to show you another aspect here. Let's say that you decided that you're going to graph, let's say, starting from here, we want to do a Chip, and then you're going to hold down the Control key, and then we're going to go from Igor all the way across, and then we're going to go to Beavis all the way across. All right? Now we'll do that. I'll go back into Insert, go back to my chart area here. I'll go with the 2-dimensional or the 3-dimensional so we can have something a little bit different here. So I'll click onto that. There it is. And then I'll take that and I'll move it down into here. And I'll make it wider to fit the width of the numbers there. There we go. All right, so as you can see here, there's your 3 different people, reps, and these are all 12 months. So it's all in there perfectly. Now, notice when I've clicked onto here, it's not active. Now, if I click it again, nothing happens. So I'll click away from it, click back onto it, and it's still not activating, all right? So my point with this is that if I needed to change this, I'm going to be kind of stuck trying to do it this way. In other words, if I wanted to maybe move Beavis to Lurch or something like that. But I can't now activate this because the reason for it is because I did like multiple ranges, okay, and that caused a little bit of a problem. Now, how do I get around that? How do I fix this? Well, what you can do is up in your Design tab here, there's a button here called Select Data. All right. So we click onto that, all right, and this little window will pop up. Now when you do that, what also happens is you end up seeing what you originally had selected. Now the area that we are graphing is where you see those marching ants, and that's basically represented in this area here. You can see how we've got like the top reps sheet name there, or worksheet name, whatever, is showing up here, and it's showing the first range, the second range, third range, and so forth, right? So it's all in there. Now, I could go in there, and if I decided that I wanted Beavis to be replaced by Lurch, all right, for whatever reason, I mean, I could go in there and change it from row 7 to row 6. I could go in there, I could click onto here, right in that spot right there, backspace it, make that a 6. Go over here, make that a 6. All right. Now I do that, and what will happen is I go ahead and hit OK, and now I'll have the Chip, Igor, and Lurch now, see, instead of Beavis. All right, so that's possible. I can do that way. I'm going to go back in there again. All right, so now you can actually see what's happened there with it. So we've got row 6 in there included, and it also condensed it a little bit. It actually condensed, instead of having Igor as a row and Lurch as a separate, section there, it actually combined 5 and 6 here, as you can see. All right, but let's say there's another thing. Let's say you decide that you just want to go back to having everything being selected. All right, well then what you would do is you would just, while this is still selected here, you would just go out in this area here, hold down your mouse, drag it all the way over to December, drag it back down like that. All right, and you'll see a change out there, but you can go ahead and hit OK now, and there you go. And now you can see, while we've got the chart active, this is also showing as well. Now, again, let's pretend like you spent a ton of time now having done all kinds of formatting on this, and then you decide that you now want to change it up again, all right? So now how do we get it to where we can go back to just having select people in there? Well, we can't do it from here, right? So again, what we'll have to do is go back into the select data, all right? We'll select our first row here like that, all right? And then you'll hold down the control key, and we'll select, let's say, Susan, like that, all right? And then we'll also select Lurch. So we just want those two, all right? And when you get done doing it, you'll see it in the background like that, but we'll go ahead still and hit OK, and there we go. So now that's it. Now again, when you click onto here, it's not going to show you what's being graphed. I mean, you'll just have to figure that out by looking at this, but that's how that works. All right, so let's just do a quick little recap. So I'm going to go back here and just kind of delete this graph again. So I'll just select and hit the delete key there. So if you're going to be selecting just one big range, that's easy. You just say, well, if I'm going to do all the numbers here, then you would just kind of do something like this, where you're including the labels and the numbers, and that means that you'll have to pretty much start up here in the corner and do your selection. On the other hand, if you're just selecting a few different rows, then you have to say to yourself, okay, if I'm going to be doing, let's say, Igor like this, all right, then you hold down your control key, and you got to do the exact same width, okay, and the same exact starting point, or it's not going to work right. So that means you got to start over here in Beavis, go across like that. If you decide, okay, I want to do Susan, then you go and drag that across like that, all right? And not only do you want to have, obviously, those labels along with the numbers, you also want to have the corresponding labels, for the columns, right? So that means, do you select it from here, or do you start from here? You start from here because you want to keep that width the same, right? Because if I start with January, then Susan is January, all right? Or I should say, yeah. So January is Susan, right? And February ends up being this number here. See, so you got to keep it even. So we start from here, we hold down the control key, and then select all the way across like that. And then once we've done that, we can go ahead and make our graph. All right? All right, so hopefully this is going to be some help for you. You're going to find that a lot of the times when you're graphing worksheets, they might not be all nicely all cuddled together with the data just in one area, and you're going to have to select multiple areas, and this is how you do it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching. Take care.